Good evening. The St. James Police have charged 33-year-old Rashawn Patterson, otherwise called Chizzy, of a Harvey River, Hanover address with the murder of 35-year-old social media influencer Anika Townsend, otherwise called Slickiana. Ms. Townsend's body was retrieved by the Marine Police from the sea in the Reading area of St. James on the morning of Friday, October 21. A post-mortem examination that was conducted on her body on November 5 concluded that her death was caused by strangulation. The post-mortem estimates that Ms. Townsend was killed sometime between the hours of 11 p.m. Thursday, October 20 and 9 a.m. on October 21. The police say during the course of this investigation, an abundance of forensic, cyber forensic, and other technological evidence has been collected.
The St. James Police have charged 33 years old Rashawn Patterson, otherwise called Chizzy, who is of a Harvey River, Hanover address, with the murder of 35-year-old social media influencer Anika Townsend, otherwise called Kean or Slickiana. Miss Townsend's body was retrieved by the Marine Police in the waters in the Reading area of the parish of St. James on the morning of Friday, October 21st, 2022. A post-mortem examination that was conducted on her body on November 5th concluded that her death was caused by strangulation. The post-mortem estimates that Ms. Townsend was killed at some time between the hours of 11 p.m. Thursday, October 20th and 9 a.m. October 21st. During the course of this investigation, a wealth of forensic, cyber forensic, and other technical evidence was collected. Following consultation with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the JCF Legal Services Division, Patterson was formally charged with murder this afternoon. The facts are that on Thursday, October 20th, Ms. Townsend traveled from Kingston to Montego Bay, where she was picked up by Patterson at approximately 7:30 p.m. During the course of the evening, they visited a restaurant in Hanover and a guest house in St. James. At some point in the night, an argument developed between them, which resulted in Ms. Townsend being strangled by Patterson and her body disposed.
In other news tonight, about 15 adults and several children are now homeless after a large fire gutted several houses on Fleet Street in central Kingston this afternoon. Residents say at least 4 homes and a Honda Accord were destroyed, and that the quick action of the fire brigade prevented a larger catastrophe. Police Inspector Eucal Francis, who is attached to the Central Police Station, said that the origin of the fire is unknown at this time. Units from the Halfway Tree, Rollington Town, York Park, and Trenchtown fire stations responded to the blaze. We will bring you more on this developing story in subsequent newscasts. Still making the news tonight, 2 Jamaica Defense Force JDF soldiers are dead and 2 others have been injured following a motor vehicle accident along Old Hope Road in St. Andrew early this morning. The deceased soldiers have only been identified as Nicardo Harrison and Mario Powell. Assistant Superintendent of Police in charge of the Accident Investigation and Reconstruction Unit at the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Dallon Lewis, says the crash occurred at about 3:30 a.m. in the vicinity of Waterfalls. All occupants of the motor car received multiple injuries and were transported to the University Hospital of the West Indies, where Harrison and Powell were pronounced dead.
This collision occurred about 3:30 a.m. whilst the car was traveling southerly along Hope Road, right heading towards Matscana, where it's alleged that the driver failed to negotiate a left-hand curve, and as a result the vehicle head straight and collided into a perimeter wall. From the extent of the damage, it is evident that some level of speed was involved, and based on the absence of certain critical evidence on the road surface in terms of braking or tire yaw marks and scuff marks, such like that. It is evidence from the initial stage that there was not much reaction that had taken place in terms of trying to maneuver around a curve or to make some adjustment as it relates to the speed at which the vehicle was traveling. It's unfortunate that all 4 occupants of the vehicle were seriously injured. Right, 2 of them succumbed. 1, from information that is coming to us, is still critical in the hospital, and the 4th one is sort of stable. So we're just hoping for the best, and that at least those 2 can remain alive. But the investigation is at a critical stage now. Right here in my hand is the damage event data recorder, which we call the black box. So I'm going to spend some time to analyze whatever data I can get from it as to identify, what sort of activity the vehicle was engaging at the time of the crash. So that's basically the most I can say at this point.
The latest deaths have increased total road fatalities since January 1 to 399. As we continue with the news tonight, Red Stripe, in partnership with the private sector organization of Jamaica, once again hosted a dynamic town hall that explored the issue of responsible alcohol consumption and road safety. The lineup of public and private sector stakeholders covered transportation, law enforcement, and entertainment for the Responsibility Now meeting yesterday. This was the second in a series of town halls to raise awareness around responsible consumption ahead of traditionally high consumption periods. State Minister in the Ministry of Transport and Mining, J.C. Hutchinson, who gave the keynote address, pointed out the importance of responsible drinking and how one's actions can impact another person's life.
We have been hearing it over and over again. Don't drink and drive. But we fear that its effectiveness is lost on persons who believe that they are the exception. Who doesn't enjoy a nice cold beer, especially at the end of a long day? Sadly, many persons do not consider how they and others are impacted once they have a drink and get behind a steering wheel. When you drive under the influence of alcohol, your cognition, vision, and reaction time are impaired. Once your blood alcohol content, BAC, is over 0, the risk of crashes and fatalities increases exponentially. According to the World Health Organization, motorcyclists with a BAC over 0.5 grams per liter risk a crash up to 40 times higher than someone with a 0 BAC. Furthermore, drivers aged 18 to 20 years of age are 3 times more likely to crash than drivers who are over 30 years. Risky behavior also tends to increase with alcohol consumption, including speeding, neglect to use protective devices such as seat belts and helmets, and other reckless driving behavior.
Diane Ashton Smith, head of corporate affairs, Red Stripe, outlined the Brew a Better World 2030 Ambition campaign.
We have been the leaders in responsible consumption. We are the pioneers. It was way back in 2014, and in fact earlier than that, 2004, when we launched in Jamaica the first ever above-the-line responsible drinking campaign. Think responsibly, drink responsibly, which has now, and I see nodding in the audience, which has now morphed into our Drink and Live Responsibly campaign. The truth is that we make beer. And for us, that translates to brewing the joy of true togetherness. It's a social lubricant. Alcohol and beers. It's what we drink and consume when we're celebrating births, we're celebrating birthdays, we're celebrating anniversaries, and we're even celebrating deaths. It's all part of our social fabric here in Jamaica. But we're very clear as Red Stripe that it is a unique product. And so we have to be responsible in the way we communicate, the way we sell, and of course, in the way we consume these products. Globally, across Heineken, you would have heard that our commitment is explicit. It is explicit. Our Brew a Better World 2030 ambition is all about sustainability and responsibility.
Vice President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, Dr. Paris Layou Ayi, outlined the role of the private sector in this initiative.
The role of the private sector in this initiative that we are doing this morning cannot be understated. It represents a proactive and concerted effort by Red Stripe to ensure that the message of road safety remains at the forefront of the decision-making process. As with previous stagings of the town hall, we are heartened by the strategic effort to bring together industry specialists who can provide data-driven insight to inform our discussion. The PSOJ applauds your ongoing efforts to promote responsible alcohol consumption. We give special commendation on your initiatives, including the Parents Movement, which focused on arming parents with tools and resources to have the appropriate conversation about alcohol. We also applaud your knowledge-sharing fora over the last 2 years that have addressed various topics and out of which you've proposed a menu of options for targeted intervention for alcohol-related harm. And of course, your Drink and Live Responsibly campaign to increase awareness around this very important issue.
Event promoter and entrepreneur PJ Wright, during his contribution to the panel discussion, says more needs to be done to promote responsible consumption at events.
Well, overall with our partners, as in the message has been consistent, responsible drinking. But let's be realistic. I don't think that we're pushing it as much as we should be. It needs to be more on the forefront of everybody's minds around our consumers. Our consumers are why we're in business.
Yes.
So if we're doing more to make them aware of the harsh reality of what will happen, not just to you, but to others, that when you are intoxicated and you have an accident, that it's not necessarily that you're just harming yourself, you may be harming others and others' loved ones. So that message needs to be a little bit more at the forefront. Things like this help it for us to understand, as in just even sitting here getting some of these statistics. You know, you hear it sometimes, but when you're actually fully in tune, and
it drives it home, right?
It's driving it home,
yeah.
And the importance of putting it to the forefront. What coming into the Christmas season, and some people call it the silly season, is that we have to look to ways to promote more of that designated driver. Let's be,
Absolutely.
Again, real on it. We have a parking issue at events. So why we need to have 1,000 people in an event and 2,000 cars? There's no reason for it. So let's look to getting the drive share. We have our taxi services. We have drive share options now in Jamaica. Let's promote those kind of things.
Continuing with the news tonight, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company Limited, JUTC, says it has noticed in recent times that commuters, including students, who use their service at North and South Parade downtown Kingston, specifically at their laybys, have been doing so recklessly. In a statement released today, the JUTC says commuters have been engaging in the dangerous practice of running alongside buses as the unit enters the laybys in an effort to get inside of them. This practice is wholly unsafe and could result in injury or worse. a fatality. Corporate Communications Manager Cecil Toms is encouraging commuters to observe proper road usage.
We've noticed that in recent times, our commuters, including our students, have been engaging in a rather dangerous practice of running alongside buses as the unit enters the laybys, in particular our North and South Parade laybys downtown Kingston, in an effort to get inside of them. This practice is really and truly unsafe and could result in injury or worse. We understand the challenge currently being experienced and the frustration that the long waiting time is causing. However, we wish to implore teachers, parents, and guardians to remind students not to rush or run alongside the bus before it comes to a complete stop. Students and adult passengers alike must wait on the sidewalk or curb until it is safe to enter the bus. And, for our part, the JUTC will be reaching out to schools to enlist the support of principals, the Road Safety Council, and the parent-teacher groups in reminding students about proper road usage and good pedestrian behavior. While we make this appeal as well, we're also encouraging our adults to be proper role models and to protect our children. Additionally, I wish to point out that we know that as the Christmas season approaches, there will be more demand for our service, and as such, we are doing all we can to increase our bus rollout to reduce crowding at our laybys. We ask for your continued patience and understanding as we look forward to receiving brand new buses next year.
Still making Mello TV news tonight, a dance promoter is among two men who were fatally shot at an alleged illegal party, which was being held at a bar in George's Plain, Westmoreland last night. Dead are 48-year-old Owen King, otherwise called Peterkin, dance promoter of Dance Top in George's Plain, and 50-year-old Craig Chambers, otherwise called Godness, a music selector, both of George's Plain, Westmoreland. Reports from the Frome police coming into our news center are that at about 11:20 p.m., both men were at an illegal party promoted by King at a section of the community called Jane Marks Road when a white motor car drove to the location. Two men armed with handguns alighted from the vehicle and opened fire, hitting King and Chambers multiple times before escaping in the vehicle. Both victims were rushed to the Savannah Lamar Hospital, where they were pronounced dead. No motive has been established for this recent killing. However, we will bring you more on this story in subsequent newscasts. Stopping for a time check for Radio News, 5:50. One last story, picking up. The JLP's 79th annual conference will begin this Saturday with the party's private session at the Montego Bay Convention Center in St. James. Mr. McKenzie says they are expecting a massive group as party supporters are eagerly awaiting the public session that will be held on November 20 at the National Arena in St. Andrew.
On the budget. Yes, we do have a budget. A budget in the range of some 50 million Jamaican dollars, which we would have also got private donations as is customary towards the party conference. So yes, there's a budget. Conference is expected to cost us around $50 million, and we do enjoy support from the private sector as it relates to donations.
Could the chairman make it very clear though that members of parliament in that budget foot a large portion of the bill?
Yes.
So it's not $50 million that the JLP is giving out to MPs.
They may add to it as well.
Yeah, they may add to it
as well. So a lot of MPs like myself, like Mr. McKenzie, would have gone out there over the last couple of months and fundraised. And when we look at the cost of transportation, which MPs are going to bear that cost, the cost of refreshments, MPs are going to bear that cost. So the cost of the conference is not $50 million coming from the JLP party. It's a collective among all the members of parliament.
Mr. Mackenzie urged party supporters planning to attend the conference to obey the traffic rules and to avoid body protrusion and the riding on the tops of buses.
The party will definitely, and we have started already mobilizing the ground, the various constituencies right across Jamaica. We are expecting a massive crowd at the national arena, and the party supporters, based on the response that we have been getting on the ground, is eagerly anticipating. This is the first public session we'll be having since 2019. Right. And it is of importance because while the restrictions on COVID has been lifted, the party is still cognizant that COVID is very much alive. And we will continue to ensure that the practices associated to the protocols are observed. I want to, as we go into this, our 79th year, we are going into the 79th year as a party on a record of performance and achievement, and the year 2022 have seen great strides made by the party despite the challenges that we face economically in terms of the global problems that is confronting the world. But the party, the Jamaica Labour Party, is on the path to continue the prosperity and to rebuild Jamaica to be stronger and better. We are going to have monitors on all the major routes taking party supporters to the conference. And these monitors will have the responsibility to see that there's nobody protruding, no party supporters riding on the top of buses or hanging out windows. I want to appeal to party supporters that this is not what we want in this our 79th year, and we are going to be working to ensure that that is eliminated. Persons entering the national arena will not be allowed to take any weapons, no firearms, no knives, etc. Persons who are firearm holders are asked to make arrangements for the security of their firearms, but we will not be allowing any weapons of any sort inside the national arena. The parties, as I said before, is mobilizing the constituencies right across the country, and we are expecting all 63 constituencies across the country to be participating or to participate in the public session of the party.
And those are the stories making news. I am Shelley Hill. Do stay safe, pleasant viewing, and thanks for watching.